one thing for sure that we are so certain about when it comes to the generosity of God, that God has entrusted us with so many things, with so many gifts and blessings. And it's somehow up for us to really recognize that giftedness in us, to recognize that indeed, even if we are unworthy and even if we are not entitled, God continues to disperse gifts and blessings of manifold in nature, that beyond our imagination, due to His generosity and His love for us. And yet, the gift is something that is given but never being demanded. But somehow, the very nature of gift is that we can only use the gifts not for us to hide them or for us to neglect them. The efficacy of the gift depends upon of how we nurture them, of how we nourish them, so that by doing so, it would yield fruits that could give goodness not just for us, but also for others, and most especially for the greater glory of God. For others to know in us that God is generous, for others to know that in the generosity of God, we may come to His presence and can even be given more. And that is exactly the very point in our gospel today. Similar to the gospel last Sunday on the 33rd Sunday in ordinary time from the version of St. Luke, as from the version of St. Matthew, today is the version of St. Luke, wherein God has given us many gifts through the parable of the coin by giving His servants money in order for them to invest. But important thing to note in this way of acknowledging our giftedness is that every time we nourish our gifts, every time we give, involve risks. And the risk that is being involved is something that we should not recoil, or the reason in which we should not, we should say that I will not invest these things. I have more trouble of my own. I would not add up to my ever-increasing problems and trouble in my lives. And that is the reason why in the third servant, instead of taking the risk of investing, he just hid the coin in his handkerchief. Last Sunday, we are told that the third servant dug a hole and buried the coin. This is an attitude of not paying any attention, of taking the risk when it comes to nourishing the gifts, when it comes to improving ourselves, and somehow taking the risk of involving into good relationships. Because even in the realms of love, it involves risks. We should not be afraid, because the risks that we take is self-fulfillment. The risks that we take somehow would make us a better person. And that is why the Lord wants to remind us that every gift that He has given to us should be nourished. And by nourishing it involves risks. But the more we take the risks, the more that God would readily give us with the bountiful of His blessings. And the more we refuse to nourish the gifts, even the very less that we have will be taken away. Amen.